Tell Frost I heard him. The voice rises from the desert well so faintly that Staff Sergeant Isaiah Cole almost mistakes it for wind moving through stone. Almost. For the past 4 minutes, Frost has been barking into that black opening with a desperation Isaiah has never heard from him before. The white German shepherd stands at the crumbling rim, front paws planted against sun-baked rock, his pale coat streaked red with Arizona dust. Each bark falls into the shaft and returns thinner, broken into echoes that seem to come from miles beneath their boots. The afternoon heat presses down on Red Mesa like a heavy hand. Metal buckles burn against uniforms. Sand gathers between teeth. Even the horizon trembles. Nothing moves out here except dry grass, circling hawks, and the loose strap on Captain Rebecca Hayes's pack. "Cole, pull him back," she says. Her voice is calm, but the patrol has already lost 20 minutes, and a wall of brown dust is forming far to the west. Isaiah tightens his grip on Frost's harness. "Frost, heel." The dog does not move. That alone is enough to unsettle him. Frost obeys whispered commands in roaring aircraft. He can hold position while engines shake the ground beneath him. He does not ignore Isaiah, not without a reason. "There's nothing down there," Corporal Mason Reed says, shading his eyes. The survey map lists this well as dry since 1987. Frost barks twice. Short, sharp. Then he stops. His ears angle forward. His chest rises and falls beneath the harness, but every other part of him becomes still. Isaiah feels the change travel up the leash. This is not panic. Frost is listening. A fly circles the rim. Somewhere in the distance, a sheet of loose tin taps against an abandoned water tank. Then Frost releases one long bark into the darkness. Too short. A pause. One long. Isaiah's hand tightens. He has heard thousands of K9 signals, but not that one. Captain Hayes steps closer, careful of the fractured stones around the opening. The well is nearly 6 feet across, lined with old brick and pale limestone. A rusted pulley hangs above it, frozen in place, its rope long gone. No tracks lead toward the rim. No abandoned vehicle sits. Nearby, no fresh footprints disturb the sand except those made by the Marines themselves. "Could be an animal," Hayes says. Isaiah kneels beside Frost and places one dark hand against the dog's shoulder. Beneath the white fur, the muscles are rigid. He doesn't signal animals like this. Frost turns his head for half a second. His amber eyes meet Isaiah's, not asking permission, but asking him to understand. Then he faces the well again and repeats the pattern. 2 short barks. Silence. 1 long. Isaiah leans over the edge. Heat rises from the stones, but the air coming from below is strangely cool. It carries the smell of damp earth, old minerals, and something faintly familiar. Canvas. Sweat. Machine oil. The ordinary scent of a Marine's field gear. His pulse changes. "Hello," Isaiah calls. His voice drops into the shaft and comes back in pieces. "United States Marines. Can anyone hear me?" Nothing answers. Reed exhales and glances toward the advancing dust. "Sergeant, we need to move." Isaiah raises one finger. "Wait." Frost lowers his body, pressing his chest near the ground. His nose hovers above the opening. The dog gives a soft sound now, not a bark but a strained whine, as though the darkness below has become something personal. Isaiah removes his glove and lays his palm flat against the stone. At first he feels only heat. Then something touches the edge of hearing. Not a word. A scrape. A cough. Captain Hayes hears it too. Her expression changes. "Sound off," she calls into the well. Several seconds pass. The desert holds its breath. Then the voice comes. Weak. Dry. Human. Cole. Isaiah freezes. Nobody outside this patrol should know he is here. Frost surges forward, and Isaiah braces both boots to keep him from stepping over the rim. The dog barks once, loud enough to send a hawk lifting from a nearby post. From below, the voice returns, broken but unmistakable. "Tell Frost. I heard him." No one speaks. Reed stares at Isaiah. Hayes reaches for her radio. Petty Officer Luis Ramirez drops his medical pack and moves toward the opening. Isaiah's eyes remain fixed on the darkness. Somewhere beneath them is a soldier who knows his name. A soldier who knows. "Frost. Identify yourself," Hayes calls. The answer is swallowed by a deep groan from inside the well, the slow complaint of stone shifting under pressure. Dust spills from the inner wall and disappears. Frost backs away one step, growling low in his chest. Then the voice rises again, urgent despite its weakness. Don't lower the rope. Isaiah bends closer. Why not? Another tremor moves through the rim. A thin crack races beneath his hand. From far below, the soldier draws one painful breath and says, because the wall won't hold. Captain Rebecca Hayes lifts one hand, and every Marine steps back from the fractured rim. A second ribbon of dust slips into the shaft, whispering against the stones on its way down. Staff Sergeant Isaiah Cole keeps one hand locked around Frost's harness, while Petty Officer Luis Ramirez lies flat on the ground several feet from the opening, careful not to add weight near the unstable edge. We hear you, Ramirez calls. Stay still and conserve your strength. Tell us your name. For several seconds, only the wind answers. It moves over Red Mesa in dry, heated waves, carrying the smell of creosote and distant rain that may never reach them. Frost remains fixed on the well. His white ears point forward, and a low sound trembles in his throat. Then the voice rises again. Corporal Nathan Walker. Isaiah feels the name land inside him like a door opening onto an old room. Nathan Walker, 29 years old, communications specialist, assigned to a survey team that vanished from the eastern route 36 hours earlier, then found alone near an overturned utility vehicle with no sign of its corporal. The official report said Nathan's radio, pack, and identification tags had been recovered beside the road. His footprints led west for less than half a mile before the wind erased them. Some believed he had become disoriented. Others had already begun using a colder word. Desertion. Isaiah had never accepted it. Nathan was not careless, and he was not a man who walked away from people depending on him. Walker, Isaiah says, lowering himself near the safe side of the rim. This is Cole. Can you hear me clearly? A weak laugh drifts. Upward, little more than breath. Clearly enough. Frost releases one short bark. The sound drops into the dark. Nathan answers with a faint whistle, 3 notes rising and falling. Frost's entire posture changes. His tail lowers, not in fear but recognition, and he presses forward until Isaiah steadies him. You know him, Hayes says. It is not a question. Isaiah watches Frost stare into the shaft. They know each other. The memory returns with the smell of antiseptic and rain. 8 months earlier, Frost had spent 3 weeks at a rehabilitation kennel after a training accident left him afraid of enclosed spaces. Isaiah had visited whenever duty allowed, but Nathan had been there every morning. He sat outside Frost's kennel without reaching through the gate, reading weather reports aloud in a calm voice until the dog stopped trembling. He left food behind partitions and waited without forcing him forward. On the final day, Frost crossed a dark training tunnel because Nathan waited at the other end. Isaiah had thanked him once. Nathan had shrugged and said the dog had done the difficult part. Captain Hayes turns to Corporal Mason Reed. Confirm Walker's status with command. Reed moves 30 feet from the rim and raises the radio. Static crackles under the widening sky. Ramirez removes a small listening device from his medical pack and places its sensor against the ground. His face tightens as he studies the reading. The shaft may be deeper than 60 feet. There is hollow space below the main chamber, possibly an old cistern. The inner wall is shifting. Hayes looks west. The storm has grown taller, a dark wall rolling across the desert at a speed no one can ignore. We need engineering support and a rescue team. Nearest unit is at least 45 minutes out, Reed says after lowering the radio. Air support cannot land once the dust reaches us. Isaiah glances at the horizon. They may have 20 minutes. Maybe less. Walker, Hayes calls, how badly are you hurt? Silence follows. Ramirez taps the sensor. Nathan, answer us. A cough rises through the shaft. Dehydrated. Left shoulder is not working right. I can breathe. The careful wording tells Isaiah more than the words themselves. Nathan is protecting information, measuring what the people above can bear. How long have you been down there? Isaiah asks. Since yesterday afternoon. Your equipment was found miles east of here. I know. Hayes kneels beside Isaiah, her eyes narrowed against the glare. Why did you leave the route? Nathan does not answer at once. Frost whines and lowers his head between his paws, listening to something too quiet for human ears. Isaiah remembers Nathan sitting outside that kennel, never demanding trust, only making room for it. Nobody here has judged you. Isaiah says. We only need the truth so we can bring you home. The wind pushes a veil of sand across the stones. From below comes the sound of Nathan drawing a slow breath. My vehicle rolled after I left the service road. I saw tracks heading toward the mesa. What kind of tracks? Hayes asks. Another pause. Small ones. Isaiah and Hayes exchange a look. Ramirez stops, adjusting the sensor. Walker, were you alone when you reached the well? Before Nathan can answer, a dull crack echoes beneath them. The ground shivers. Frost jumps back, then plants himself again, refusing to retreat farther. More dust falls into the opening. Isaiah calls Nathan's name. At first, there is nothing. Then the corporal's voice returns, weaker now, but steady. You need to understand something, Cole. Isaiah leans closer without touching the rim. Tell me. I did not fall into this well. The words drift upward through the cool darkness. I climb down. Nathan's confession hangs beneath the desert wind, too deliberate to be mistaken for delirium. Isaiah keeps his eyes on the dark opening, while Captain Rebecca Hayes shifts farther from the cracked rim and signals the others to do the same. Why did you climb down? She calls. For a moment, there is only the faint scrape of loose sand crossing stone. Then Nathan answers, each word separated by the effort it takes to breathe. There was a child. Frost lifts his head. The white German shepherd stares into the shaft, as if the voice below has pulled an invisible line tight between them. Isaiah lowers himself onto one knee, staying several feet from the edge. Start at the vehicle, he says. Tell us everything you remember. Nathan draws a slow breath. I was driving west after checking the remote weather station. The wind had already started covering the service road. About 6 miles from the mesa, I saw something shining beyond the shoulder. His voice fades, then returns. It was a sport utility vehicle. Silver, lying on its side near a dry wash. Corporal Mason Reed raises his radio and quietly passes the description to command. Hayes watches him, then looks toward the growing wall of dust. Its lower edge has begun to erase the distant hills. Nathan continues. He had stopped, called for assistance, and approached the vehicle. The driver's door was open. No one was inside. A child's backpack rested on the ceiling, which had become the floor, and a red jacket was caught beneath the rear seat. On the dashboard, a family photograph had been held in place by a small wooden cross. I found one set of footprints, Nathan says. They were heading west. How small? Ramirez asks. Child-sized. Maybe 9 or 10 years old. Isaiah closes his eyes for half a second. The heat, the distance, and the coming storm arrange themselves into a truth none of them wants to say aloud. A child alone in this desert would follow anything that looked like shelter. A rock formation. An abandoned structure. A well. Nathan had taken water, a flashlight, and a coil of utility rope from the vehicle. He left his heavier pack and radio behind because the tracks were already disappearing, and he believed he would be gone only a few minutes. Then the wind changed. Sand swept over the ground in thin moving sheets, erasing each print almost as soon as he found it. I called out, Nathan says. No answer at first. Then I heard someone crying near the mesa. Frost shifts his paws. Isaiah strokes the fur between his shoulders, feeling the heat trapped beneath the pale coat. What is the child's name? He asks. Emma Reed. 9 years old. Her grandmother was driving. Mason Reed looks up sharply at the shared last name, but Nathan explains that there is no relation. Emma had remembered her full name, her school, and the small town where she lived. She had climbed from the overturned vehicle while her grandmother was unconscious and wandered toward the mesa looking for help. By the time Nathan reached her, she was sitting beside the old well, holding one shoe in her hands. She was frightened, thirsty, and trying not to cry. I told her I was a Marine, Nathan says softly. She asked if that meant I knew the way home. Isaiah looks down at Frost. The dog's ears remain fixed forward. What happened next? Hayes asks. Nathan pauses so long that Ramirez leans closer to the listening device. The ground beneath her gave way. His voice does not rise. It becomes quieter, which makes the words heavier. Emma slipped through a broken section inside the rim and landed on a narrow stone shelf below. Nathan secured the utility rope around an old support beam and lowered himself after her. He reached the shelf, checked that she could speak and move, then tried to guide her back toward the rope. Before they could climb, part of the inner wall shifted. Stone and dust filled the shaft, severing the rope above them and sealing the easiest path out. The radio in my pocket was crushed against the wall, Nathan says. My shoulder stopped cooperating. We moved lower because the shelf was breaking. Ramirez glances at Isaiah. The cool air rising from the well no longer feels like relief. It feels like a warning from the space beneath them. Is Emma conscious? He asks. Nathan does not answer directly. She is still with me. Hayes steps forward, then catches herself before entering the unstable zone. Walker, I need more than that. Is she awake? A faint sound travels up the shaft. Not Nathan's voice. A small cough. Frost whines and presses his chest to the ground. Isaiah feels something inside him loosen and tighten at once. She is alive. Emma, he calls, keeping his tone steady. My name is Isaiah. We are here to bring you and Nathan home. No reply comes, but Nathan whispers something below, too soft for them to understand. Then the sound of shifting stone rolls through the well. It starts deep, almost gentle, and rises into a hard, grinding groan. Frost springs to his feet. Ramirez pulls the listening device away. A shower of dust lifts from the opening and drifts across the Marines like pale smoke. Nathan, Isaiah calls. Talk to me. A strained breath answers. Then Nathan's voice breaks through, urgent for the first time. The shelf is moving. Hayes orders everyone farther back, while Reed reaches for the rescue line. Isaiah refuses to take his eyes from the dark. Can you secure Emma? He asks. I am trying. Another scrape echoes below. Frost barks twice, pauses, then gives one long call into the shaft. Nathan's next words arrive with fear held tightly beneath discipline. Cole, she is slipping. Isaiah moves before the echo has finished climbing the shaft. Hold her, Nathan. We are bringing the line down. Captain Rebecca Hayes raises a hand. Not from the rim. The stone is failing. Her eyes sweep the ground, measuring distance, weight, and the storm now rolling toward them like a second horizon. Corporal Mason Reed anchors a rescue rope around the rear axle of the patrol vehicle, nearly 30 feet from the well, while Petty Officer Luis Ramirez lays out water, a compact radio, and a thermal blanket. Every movement is quick, but nothing is careless. One mistake could turn two trapped lives into silence. Frost paces beside Isaiah, his white coat stained copper by the desert dust. He does not pull toward the opening now. He watches the rope. He watches Isaiah. Then he looks down, as if he understands that what happens next depends on human hands. Nathan, Ramirez calls. I need you to keep Emma against the inner wall. Do not move until we tell you. A strained answer rises from below. She is holding on. Isaiah hears what Nathan does not say. His own strength is fading. The team drives two steel stakes into firm ground and builds a low pulley system that will keep pressure away from the cracked stones. Reed tests each knot twice. Hayes tests them again. The old well gives another soft groan beneath the wind. Sand slips over the rim in thin streams, vanishing before it reaches the bottom. We have one safe line, Hayes says. One person at a time. Isaiah looks toward the western sky. The dust wall is closer now, swallowing the distant road, and turning the sunlight the color of old brass. Then Emma comes first. Ramirez fastens a small camera and light to the rope. He lowers it slowly while Isaiah feeds the cable through gloved hands. The screen flickers to life. For 20 feet, they see only stone, mineral stains, and darkness trembling at the edge of the light. At 40 feet, the shaft widens. Old wooden braces lean from the wall like forgotten ribs. The picture shakes as the camera brushes loose rock. Easy, Hayes says. Isaiah slows the descent. At 58 feet, the light catches movement. A hand appears against the stone. Dusty fingers. A torn sleeve. Then the camera swings, revealing the edge of a red jacket and one small sneaker resting above dark water. Emma, Ramirez calls. Can you hear us? The screen turns toward a pale face tucked against Nathan's shoulder. Her eyes open for only a moment. Nathan has wedged himself across a narrow ledge, one arm around the child, the other gripping a root that has pushed through the stone. Water moves several inches below his boots. The image lasts less than 3 seconds. A stone strikes the camera. The screen flashes white, then goes black. Frost gives a low whine. Isaiah stares at the dead screen, holding the cable as if sight might return through force of will. We saw them, Ramirez says. That is enough. They are alive. Reed attaches a sealed water pouch and the compact radio to the rescue line. Nathan, we are sending supplies. The package will reach your right side. Understood. The rope begins its descent. 10 feet. 20. 30. The pulley turns with a dry metallic whisper. Everyone listens for changes beneath the ground. At 45 feet, the line stops. Isaiah eases it left. It moves again, then catches harder. It is snagged, Reed says. Nathan's voice comes through faintly from the well. I can see it. Lower 2 more feet. Isaiah feeds out the rope. The tension loosens. Below, something taps against stone. I have it, Nathan says. Relief crosses Ramirez's face. Give Emma the water first. Small sips. A weak child's voice reaches them, too soft to form words. Nathan speaks to her with a gentleness that seems almost impossible in that darkness. That is it, Emma. Slow and steady. You are doing fine. For one quiet moment, hope settles over the Marines. It is fragile, but it is real. Then the rescue line jerks. Once. Twice. The pulley snaps tight. Hay steps back. Nobody touch it. A deep vibration travels through the ground. Isaiah feels it beneath his knees before he hears the stone moving below. Nathan, release the line, he calls. Let it hang. There is no answer. The rope draws taut enough to hum in the wind. Reed reaches for the anchor, but Hayes stops him. If we pull, we may bring the wall with it. Isaiah leans toward the shaft. Nathan, let go. The line suddenly slackens. For half a second, it falls freely through Isaiah's hands. Then a sharp sound cuts across the desert. The rope separates somewhere below the rim. Its upper length whips across the sand and lies still. Frost barks once. Isaiah calls Nathan's name. No reply comes. Ramirez calls for Emma. The well returns only their own voices, faint and empty. The dust storm darkens the sun. Reed looks at the severed rope. That was our only line. Frost steps toward the opening, then stops. His ears turn sideways. His barking ceases completely. He lowers his head and presses one ear against the earth. Isaiah watches the dog become motionless. Not defeated. Listening. Frost remains that way for several long seconds. Then he rises, turns away from the well, and runs toward the rocky slope north of the mesa. Frost! Isaiah shouts. The white shepherd does not slow. He disappears into the blowing sand, as though something beneath the desert has called him by name. Isaiah does not wait for permission. He runs after Frost as the first hard gusts of the storm sweep across Red Mesa, turning the air brown and grainy. Sand strikes his face and gathers along the seams of his uniform, but the white shepherd remains visible ahead, a pale shape moving through the dust with his nose close to the ground. Behind them, Captain Rebecca Hayes calls for Corporal Mason Reed to remain at the well, while Petty Officer Luis Ramirez follows with his medical pack. Isaiah hears the order through the wind, then loses every other sound. Beneath the rising storm, Frost reaches the rocky slope north of the mesa and stops beside a narrow seam in the earth. He barks twice, short and measured. Then he waits. One long bark follows. The pattern reaches into Isaiah like a memory he is not invited. Too short. Silence. One long. He has seen Frost respond to hand signals, whistles, scents, and spoken commands, but this is different. This belongs to another time. Another handler. Another room. 8 months earlier, Frost had stood frozen at the entrance of a dark training tunnel, his body rigid beneath the overhead lights. The accident that injured him had not broken a bone, but it had left something deeper behind. Enclosed spaces made him shake. Echoes made him retreat. Isaiah had tried patience, food, and familiar commands. Nothing worked. Nathan Walker never pulled the dog forward. He sat on the other side of the tunnel and tapped the wall twice, paused, then tapped once more. When Frost looked toward the sound, Nathan spoke softly. There is someone alive where you cannot see. He repeated the pattern every day. 2 short sounds. 1 long. A promise that the darkness held a life worth finding. By the end of the 3rd week, Frost crossed the tunnel without being led. Isaiah had remembered Nathan smiling, not proudly, but gratefully, as though the dog had rescued him from something too. Now Frost gives the same signal to the desert. Isaiah kneels beside the seam. A faint current of cool air brushes his fingers. It carries damp stone, old wood, and the sharp medicinal scent of an inhaler. There is a space beneath us, he says. Ramirez drops beside him and places one palm near the opening. More than a space. This could be a ventilation channel. Hayes arrives seconds later, her face partly covered against the blowing sand. She studies the slope, then the abandoned well nearly half a mile behind them. Old water systems sometimes had maintenance tunnels, she says. If this channel connects to the lower chamber, we may have another way in. Frost begins digging. Sand flies behind him in quick bursts. Isaiah joins with both hands, clearing loose dirt from the seam while Ramirez uses a folding shovel. The opening widens slowly, revealing stacked stones arranged too evenly to be natural. Hayes pulls a compact light from her vest and angles it through the gap. The beam disappears into darkness. It is man-made, she says. Probably sealed when the well was abandoned. Frost scratches at something buried near the edge. Isaiah reaches into the loosened soil and pulls free a narrow strip of red cloth. It is faded, dusty, and torn along one side. The image from the damaged camera returns to him. Emma's jacket. Frost presses his nose to the cloth, then toward the opening. His tail stiffens. She came through here? Ramirez asks. Isaiah studies the fabric. No. The air carried the scent from below. This tunnel connects to them. Hayes raises her radio, but static swallows most of her words. She finally catches a reply from Reed at the well. Nathan has not answered. Neither has Emma. The storm is now less than 10 minutes away from fully covering the mesa. Engineering support has turned back, Hayes says. Visibility is too low for aircraft. Ground rescue is still miles out. Isaiah looks at the narrow opening. It may be wide enough for Frost, but not for a man. We can enlarge it. Hayes does not answer immediately. Her eyes move from the unstable slope to the growing storm, then to Frost. The dog has stopped digging. He is listening again. Isaiah lowers his face near the gap. At first he hears only sand moving over rock. Then a sound comes from deep beneath the earth. 3 soft taps. A pause. 3 more. Ramirez leans closer. That is not stone settling. Isaiah cups his hands around the opening. Emma, can you hear me? The wind roars over the slope. Nothing answers. Frost lowers his chest and gives 2 short barks, waits, then 1 long bark. The silence beneath them stretches. Isaiah holds his breath. A small voice finally rises through the narrow channel, weak but clear enough to stop every person on the slope. Mister, the child says, is that the white dog? Isaiah closes his eyes for 1 second. Hope does not arrive loudly. Sometimes it comes through a crack in the ground, carried by a frightened child who has been waiting in the dark. He places his hand beside Frost's paw. Yes, Emma, he calls. That is Frost. He found you. A faint sound follows, almost a laugh, almost a sob, but safe and alive. I knew he would. Captain Rebecca Hayes lowers her radio after 3 bursts of static and looks west. The storm has reached the edge of the mesa. Sand rises in towering folds, swallowing sunlight until the desert turns the color of rusted brass. Command has ordered a full withdrawal, she says. The ground team cannot reach us before visibility disappears. Isaiah remains beside the narrow opening, one hand resting near Frost's paw. Below them, Emma's breathing comes through the stone in faint, uneven whispers. How long until the channel is buried? He asks. Hayes studies the slope. Fine sand is already pouring into the gap they uncovered. Minutes. Petty Officer Luis Ramirez opens his medical pack and removes a compact oxygen canister, thermal wraps, and a length of nylon webbing. Nathan has been without water since yesterday. Emma may have asthma. I smelled medication in the airflow, but we do not know whether she still has the inhaler. Isaiah looks into the black seam. Then we do not leave. Hayes turns toward him. Her expression is steady, but the wind pulls hard at her uniform. This is not only about courage, Cole. If the entrance collapses with 3 rescuers inside, we lose 5 people instead of 2. Isaiah knows she is right. That is what makes the choice heavier. 3 years earlier, smoke had filled a training structure outside 29 Palms while Isaiah stood at the doorway calling for Atlas, the K-9 who had served beside him for 4 years. The roof had begun to fail. His commander ordered him back. Isaiah obeyed because Marines are trained to trust the voice that sees the whole field. He walked away believing Atlas would follow. The dog never emerged. Since then, obedience and regret have lived inside him like 2 stones pressing against the same heart. Frost nudges Isaiah's wrist. His amber eyes do not plead. They wait. Isaiah removes the worn identification tag beneath his shirt. Atlas's name is faint from years of being held between his fingers. He threads the tag through a small loop on Frost's protective harness, where it settles against the white fur with a quiet metallic click. This time, Isaiah says softly, "Nobody gets left in the dark." Hayes hears him. For several seconds, she says nothing. Then she kneels near the opening and studies the stacked stones. "We make a controlled entry. Ramirez goes with you." Frost leads. Reed remains at the well and keeps contact with Nathan. "I stay here to secure the entrance and coordinate extraction." She checks her watch. "You have 12 minutes to reach the lower chamber. If the tunnel becomes unstable, you turn around." "That is an order." Isaiah meets her eyes. "Understood." They work quickly. Ramirez widens the gap with the folding shovel while Isaiah removes loose stones by hand. Each one releases a breath of cold air from below. Frost waits without barking, his body low, his nose testing the darkness. When the opening is wide enough, Isaiah clips a light to the dog's harness. Frost slips inside first, disappearing until only the pale movement of his hind legs remains. Isaiah follows on his elbows, shoulders scraping the old stone. The tunnel angles downward at nearly 40 degrees, narrow enough that he cannot turn around. Sand trickles over the back of his neck. Ramirez enters behind him, pushing the medical pack ahead. "Emma," Isaiah calls. His voice travels through the passage. "We are coming to you." A weak reply returns from somewhere below. "Frost first." Isaiah smiles despite the pressure in his chest. "Frost first." The shepherd gives a soft bark and continues. The tunnel opens after 20 feet into a low-maintenance corridor lined with timber supports darkened by age. Isaiah rises into a crouch. The air smells of mineral water and wet earth, a strange cool world beneath the burning mesa. Frost pauses at a fork in the passage, listens, then chooses the narrower path to the left. Ramirez marks the wall with reflective tape as they move. Behind them, Hayes's voice comes through the radio. 9 minutes. Isaiah acknowledges and keeps going. The corridor bends twice, descending deeper. Somewhere ahead, water drips in a slow rhythm. Frost stops suddenly. His ears flatten. A vibration runs through the floor. Isaiah places one palm against the wall. The stone trembles. "Move," he says. They hurry forward as sand begins pouring from a crack behind Ramirez. A timber support groans, then shifts under the weight above. Ramirez clears it by inches. Isaiah turns to help him, but the corridor erupts in a rolling cloud of dust. Loose earth and stone collapse between them, filling the passage from floor to ceiling. Isaiah stumbles back, shielding Frost with his body. When the sound ends, the tunnel is divided by a wall that was not there seconds before. "Ramirez," Isaiah calls. A muffled answer comes from the other side. "I'm all right. The pack is with you." Isaiah reaches for the radio. Only static answers. Frost stands beside the new barrier, then turns toward the darkness ahead. From beyond the next bend comes a small sound. 3 weak taps. A pause. 3 more. Isaiah checks his light, grips the medical pack, and looks at Frost. "It is just us now." Frost touches his nose to Atlas's tag, then walks forward into the dark. The darkness beyond the fallen passage feels different now. It is not empty. It is waiting. Isaiah Cole lifts the medical pack onto one shoulder and follows Frost through the narrow corridor, moving carefully beneath timbers that have held the weight of the desert for longer than anyone remembers. The white shepherd walks without hesitation, his harness light throwing a pale circle across damp stone. Atlas's identification tag touches the metal buckle with every step, making a soft, steady sound. Click. Silence. Click. Behind them, Petty Officer Luis Ramirez calls through the collapsed passage, but his voice is already fading beneath layers of earth. "I will find another route," he says. "Keep moving." Isaiah presses his palm against the wall. "Stay where it is stable. Captain Hayes knows your position." A muffled answer comes back, followed by the scrape of Ramirez clearing loose stones. Then even that disappears. Isaiah turns forward. The tunnel is too narrow for fear to pass him. It has nowhere to go, so it settles inside his chest and waits. Frost stops at another fork. The passage on the right slopes upward and smells of dry timber. The left descends toward cold air and slow-moving water. Frost lowers his nose, draws one breath, and chooses the left. Isaiah follows. The ceiling drops until he must bend almost double. Fine sand falls through cracks above, gathering on Frost's back and dulling his white coat. The dog shakes once, then continues. Emma, Isaiah calls. Tap again if you can hear me. Nothing answers. He moves another 10 feet. The corridor turns sharply around a stone support, and the sound of water grows louder. Emma. 3 faint taps come through the wall ahead. A pause. 3 more. Frost quickens his pace. Isaiah checks his watch. 7 minutes have passed since Captain Hayes gave the order. The radio at his shoulder produces only static. He presses the transmit button anyway. Hayes, this is Cole. Ramirez is separated but safe. Frost and I are continuing toward the lower chamber. The speaker crackles. For an instant, he thinks he hears her voice, but the storm above tears it apart. He releases the button and keeps moving. The tunnel widens into a low room where rusted pipes run along one wall. A wooden ladder lies across the floor, half covered by mineral deposits. Isaiah steps around it and notices fresh marks in the dust. Small fingers have dragged along the stone. Emma has been close to this passage. Frost sniffs the marks, then faces a gap barely wider than his shoulders. Cool air flows through it. The dog lowers himself and crawls inside. Isaiah removes the medical pack and pushes it ahead before turning sideways to follow. Stone presses against his back and chest. He moves 1 inch at a time, hearing his own breathing return from the rock. Halfway through, the earth trembles. Sand pours across his collar. He stops. Frost turns his head, amber eyes glowing in the harness light. Neither of them moves until the vibration passes. Isaiah remembers Atlas somewhere beyond smoke, waiting for a command that never came. He reaches forward and touches Frost's hind leg. I am here, he whispers. Frost continues. The gap releases them into another corridor, this one cut from older stone. Water covers the floor to Isaiah's ankles, cold enough to sting after the heat above. Each step sends a quiet ripple into the dark. The air carries Nathan's scent more strongly now, mixed with wet canvas and the medicine from Emma's inhaler. Frost pauses beside a broken support beam. He gives no bark. He listens. A child's voice comes from beyond the next bend. Frost. The dog moves before Isaiah can answer. He rounds the corner and disappears into a larger chamber. Isaiah follows, lifting the medical pack above the water. Emma, it is Isaiah. Keep talking to me. I can see his light, she says. Her voice is thin, but awake. He is coming closer. Isaiah reaches the chamber entrance. The old well rises above it like a black chimney. Far overhead, a circle of dim brown light marks the storm-covered sky. Water fills most of the floor, reflecting the weak beam from Frost's harness. Across the chamber, a narrow ledge runs beneath the wall. Something red rests against the stone. Emma's jacket. Frost steps into the water and moves toward it, slow and careful. Isaiah follows until the depth reaches his knees. Nathan, he calls. The name climbs the shaft and vanishes. No answer returns. Frost reaches the ledge and stops. His body becomes still. Isaiah angles his light across the stone. Emma sits curled against the wall, small arms wrapped around herself. Beside her lies Nathan Walker, one hand resting near the water, his face turned away. Frost lowers his nose to that hand. Nathan does not move. Isaiah's throat tightens. Emma, I need you to come toward me. She shakes her head and places one finger against her lips. Her eyes are wide, but there is trust in them because Frost is there. Please do not wake him, she whispers. He told me he was only resting. Isaiah moves through the cold water slowly, keeping his voice low enough not to frighten Emma. He has done a good job resting, he says. Now I need to check on him. Frost stands beside Nathan with his nose pressed near the Marine's hand. The beam on the dog's harness reveals what the darkness had hidden. Nathan is stretched across the narrow ledge, his left arm hooked around a thick root that has broken through the stone. His right arm circles Emma's waist. For hours, he has used his own body as a barrier between the child and the rising water. Every time the ledge shifted, he held her higher. Every time she became afraid, he told her rescue was coming. Isaiah reaches them and places 2 fingers against Nathan's neck. The pulse is there, faint but steady. He is alive, Isaiah tells Emma. Her shoulders loosen, and the breath she has been holding leaves in a small trembling sound. He promised he would not let me fall. He kept that promise. Isaiah opens the medical pack and wraps a thermal blanket around Emma. Her face is pale beneath the dust, and her lips are dry, but she follows every instruction. He gives her a small sip of water, then checks the inhaler tucked inside the pocket of her red jacket. It is almost empty. "Can you breathe for me?" he asks. Emma draws in a careful breath. "It hurts a little. We are going to take it slowly." Frost remains beside Nathan. The dog nudges his wrist once, then again. There is no response. Isaiah checks Nathan's breathing and supports his injured shoulder with folded fabric. The Marine is exhausted, dehydrated, and cold, but there is no sign that moving him carefully will cause greater harm. The problem is the ledge. It is barely wide enough for the three of them, and the water continues to climb across the stone. A low tremor moves through the chamber. Dust falls from the shaft above and scatters across the dark surface like ash. Isaiah looks toward the passage. He can carry Emma through the narrow corridor, but he cannot carry Nathan and guide the child at the same time. "Emma, I need you to be brave for a few more minutes." She looks at Frost. "Will he come with us?" Isaiah follows her gaze. "He will make sure Nathan is not alone." Emma touches the white fur between Frost's ears. "Then I can go." Isaiah secures the thermal blanket around her and lifts her onto his back. Before leaving, he leans close to Nathan. "We found you. Hold on." Frost lowers his chest beside the Marine and presses his body against Nathan's side, sharing what warmth he has. Isaiah carries Emma into the corridor. The water pulls at his boots, and the ceiling seems lower than before. He moves one careful step at a time while she holds his shoulders. At the narrow gap, he guides her through first, speaking calmly until both of them reach the other side. A scraping sound comes from beyond the collapsed section ahead. Then Ramirez's voice breaks through. "Cole, answer me." "I have Emma," Isaiah calls. "Nathan is alive. Frost is with him." Ramirez and Captain Hayes have cleared a passage barely large enough for the child. Hands reach through the opening and draw Emma safely across. She turns before disappearing. "Go back for them." Isaiah does. The chamber shakes again when he returns, but Frost has not moved. The shepherd lies beside Nathan, eyes open, waiting. Isaiah kneels and calls the Marine's name. Nothing. Frost lifts his head. Then he gives two short barks. He waits. One long bark follows, filling the chamber and climbing the well like a signal sent through time. Nathan's fingers move against the stone. Frost barks once more. Nathan opens his eyes. They are unfocused at first, then settle on the white dog beside him. "Frost," he whispers. Isaiah feels relief move through him so suddenly that he must steady his hand against the wall. "Save your strength." Nathan looks toward the empty place where Emma had been. The girl? Safe with Ramirez. Nathan closes his eyes, and for the first time, his grip on the root relaxes. Isaiah secures the nylon webbing around him and guides him from the ledge. Frost stays close as they enter the passage. When Nathan cannot continue, Isaiah supports most of his weight while the dog walks beneath his free hand. They reach the collapsed section as Hayes and Ramirez pull away the final stones. Together, the Marines bring Nathan through. Outside, the storm has begun to pass. The sky above Red Mesa opens in narrow bands of gold, and the first clean light falls across Frost's dust-covered coat. Nathan rests on the stretcher while Ramirez gives him water. Frost stands beside him, unwilling to move farther than an arm's reach. Nathan lifts one tired hand and touches Atlas's identification tag hanging from the harness. "He remembered," he says. Isaiah looks down at the dog who had listened when everyone else heard only wind. "No," he answers softly. "He never forgot." 3 weeks later, the morning sun reaches the Marine Corps K-9 training yard before the heat does. It lies across the packed earth in long golden bands, catching on chain-link fences, water bowls, and the silver buckles of working harnesses. Frost stands beside Isaiah Cole near the edge of the field, his white coat clean again, though a faint red stain still clings to the fur around one paw where desert dust had worked too deeply into the pads. Isaiah notices it every time the dog shifts his weight. Some things wash away slowly. Others are not meant to. Captain Rebecca Hayes waits near the gate with Petty Officer Luis Ramirez and Corporal Mason Reed. No one wears dress uniforms. There are no cameras, no speeches, and no row of polished medals. Nathan Walker had asked for it that way. A government vehicle stops outside the yard, and Emma Reed climbs out holding her grandmother's hand. She is wearing new sneakers, a light blue shirt, and the same red jacket that had once been torn against the stones beneath Red Mesa. The sleeve has been repaired, but a narrow strip is missing from the hem. In her other hand, she carries something folded carefully. Frost sees her before Isaiah says a word. His ears rise. His body leans forward, but he waits for permission. Isaiah gives a small nod. Go ahead. Frost crosses the yard at a steady walk. Emma lets go of her grandmother's hand and kneels before he reaches her. The dog stops close enough for his breath to move a strand of hair from her face. For one quiet second, neither of them moves. Then Emma wraps both arms around his neck. Frost stands perfectly still, accepting the embrace with the patience of a creature who knows that some people need to hold on before they can let go. Isaiah looks away toward the training tunnel. He remembers another white morning inside a rehabilitation building. Nathan sitting beyond the darkness, tapping twice, waiting, then tapping once more. At the time, it had seemed like a simple exercise. Now Isaiah understands that trust is rarely built for only one moment. It waits until the day it is needed most. Nathan enters the yard behind Emma. He walks slowly, his left arm supported by a sling, but he is upright. The desert has left shadows beneath his eyes and a careful stiffness in his steps. Still, when Frost turns toward him, the strain disappears from Nathan's face. The dog approaches without command. Nathan lowers himself to one knee. You look better than I do, he says. Frost touches his nose to Nathan's chest, then sits. Nathan rests his good hand against the dog's shoulder. No one interrupts them. Emma unfolds the object she brought. It is a narrow red ribbon made from the missing strip of her jacket, the cloth washed clean, but still marked by one pale line where the fabric had torn. She walks to Isaiah and holds it up. Can he wear this? Isaiah kneels beside her. I think he earned it. Emma threads the ribbon through Frost's collar with Nathan's help. The red cloth settles against the white fur, bright and simple. It is not an award anyone will record. It carries no rank, no number, and no official seal. Yet everyone in the yard understands what it means. It is proof that a child came home. Nathan looks toward Hayes. Did the report clear everything? She nods. The investigation confirmed the overturned vehicle, the emergency call, the footprints, and every decision Nathan made after leaving the route. The word desertion has been removed from his record. In its place is a statement noting that he acted to preserve the life of a missing child despite extreme conditions. Nathan receives the news without triumph. He only looks at Emma, then down at Frost. That is enough, he says. Ramirez smiles. For you, maybe. Mason Reed steps forward and offers Nathan his recovered identification tags. They had been cleaned, but the metal is scratched from the accident. Nathan closes his fingers around them. I thought I lost these. You left them where people would find them, Isaiah says. Even when you were alone, you were still showing us the way. Nathan turns the tags over in his palm, then notices the older tag still fastened to Frost's harness. Atlas. Isaiah has not removed it. Nathan does not ask why. He understands that some promises belong together. The group moves toward the training tunnel, where Frost once refused to enter. Emma stands near the opening and peers into the shaded passage. Was he scared of this? She asks. Isaiah nods. Once. What changed? Nathan looks at Frost. He learned that darkness does not always mean you are alone. Emma considers that, then steps to one side of the tunnel. Nathan lowers his hand to the ground and taps twice. He waits. Then he taps once more. Frost's ears lift. The yard becomes silent. The dog walks to Nathan and places one white paw gently over his hand. Nathan bows his head. Isaiah feels the old weight inside him shift, not vanish, but settle into a place where it no longer controls his breathing. Atlas is still gone. The desert still holds its scars. Nathan will carry the memory of the well, and Emma may wake some nights hearing stones move in the dark. Healing does not erase what happened. It teaches the heart how to live beside it. Sunlight moves across the yard and catches the red ribbon at Frost's collar. The cloth stirs in the breeze like a small flame that refuses to go out. Some prayers rise toward heaven. Others echo from places too deep for ordinary voices to reach. And sometimes grace is simply the one who keeps calling until somebody remembers how to listen.